Oh, I love this take. This is by Douglas Wilson on leadership. This is really good. Okay, here we go.
Modern evangelical husbands have been taught that they are to be servant leaders and that they are to lead by serving. The idea is that their role is to build consensus. That translates into find out what she wants and make sure it happens. But to the extent we use the word lead at all, why should it not be that men are to serve by leading and doing so the way a ruler or a head or a lord might do? There's a chasm between serve by leading and lead by serving. For years now, I've defined masculinity as the glad assumption of sacrificial responsibility, which is a particular form of service that men are called to. So I'm not objecting to the servant part of servant leadership. The concern has to do with the noun that the glorious adjective is modifying. Where do we get this leadership business? Where the problem lies. In his case, what noun did Jesus say that the spirit of servanthood modified? If I then, your Lord and Master, have washed your feet, ye also ought to wash one another's feet. John 13:14. Now, perhaps you've been to a marriage conference or two where that phrase, servant leadership, rolls easily off the tongue of the speakers. So here's a thought experiment. Can you imagine any of them ever nonchalantly using a phrase like servant lordship or servant rulers? What's that you say? You think they'd rather be found dead in a ditch outside of town somewhere? What the idea of servant leadership in the home does is place the husband in a position of adjectival servitude to something, and then if any attempt is made to apply this to the nouns that Scripture uses, to begin sputtering in indignation at the incipient tyranny. So let's start calling it servant lordship instead.
I love it. Servant lordship. Yeah, they wouldn't dare call it servant lordship. They like leadership because it takes away. I mean, leadership itself. I think somewhere in C.S. Lewis's writing, he talks about how somewhere along the way there was a shift in language where people no longer used the term ruler, and they switched everything into leader, because they didn't want the negative association with the word ruler, because ruler means authority, right? And modern people have a massive issue and a problem with authority. And so leadership sounds more psychological. Leadership sounds more influential, right? Oh, I'm the lead, I'm the leader. And, but really that's a sort of euphemistic term for the word ruler. Like, the question is ultimately, do you have the authority or not? Are you in authority or are you not in authority? And you'll find that, this servant leadership business, I grew up with it, constantly being droned into my ears and and at every leadership conference I'd go to, you'd hear this phrase, servant leader, you're a servant leader. And it's stupid. It's like the purpose of a Christian ruler, a man who is in authority, is to use his authority to help people for their good, not for his personal good, but to actually use his authority to help people. And that's just Christian authority. That's Christian rulership. But the notion of servant leadership, it's like if you're a good leader, you're going to serve people. You're going to use your authority and your power to serve people, right? If you're a good ruler, you're going to use your authority. If you're a good governor, you're going to use your authority to help people and to serve people and to, for their benefit. But it's not, at no point, like the phrase of servant leadership, it does come across as though, they're not really in authority, They need to, and I've heard this before, because we believe that what the scriptures teach, which is that the husband is the head of the home, the authority of the home. I've heard it say, well, if my husband serves me like Jesus and he lays down his life for me, then I'll submit to him. And that's just not how authority is submitted to. Like, when someone is in authority, you obey them, you submit to them because they are in authority. not because you feel like serving them, not because you think that they're doing their job right. When you work for someone, when you have a boss and they tell you to do something, you do it. As long as it's not illegal, you do it. Or you just quit your job and you don't work there anymore. But most of the time, people don't quit their jobs. They like their jobs, they keep their jobs, and they obey their bosses. And they don't say, well, I really don't like how you asked me to turn in those TPS reports. So once you get your attitude in check, then I will obey you. Okay, boss? That just doesn't happen. People do not argue with their bosses. They don't argue with the people who are in authority because they're in authority. And so, now, does that mean that people in authority should be abusing their authority? No. But, this servant leadership thing, it's just stupid. It really is. If you are a good ruler, if you are someone who's in leadership and who has authority, to not abuse your authority, you're going to serve people. It's just a given. To say it out loud, oh, you need to be a servant leader, it's kind of dumb. It's kind of dumb. You're just a leader is what you are. You're a ruler. You're a person in authority. And the encouragement is use your authority properly. Don't abuse your authority.